All right. Can I have your attention? Okay, I'm going to talk about the interpretation now. Right, I'll go over this question and then maybe I can give you some homework. But I know there's a long weekend ahead and we need a bit of some rest. Yeah. But be aware that next week we are going to carry on because I need to finish this whole topic. Right. Okay, so there are two types of questions that you can get on the hyperbola. You can get a question on sketching, okay, which is the most important. Then you can also get a question on interpretation. So this is an interpretation question. Now, because you did the linear function last year, you also went over this year, you also get questions or that has got a combination of the two graphs. Generally, the straight line can be combined with any other graph, okay, in this grade. So you have to know how to sketch your straight line, how to interpret it, and so on. Right, so here the two of them are combined. So we are given a straight line f of x, and then you are given g of x. Okay, this sketch here is not drawn to any specific scale. All right, so don't make any assumptions. Right, don't make any assumptions. Right, so the question says we need to determine the coordinates of P and Q. Like I'm going to emphasize this because of the mistakes that took place. If you get a question saying determine coordinates, you need to write your answers in as ordered pairs, an x value and a y value for that specific point. Okay? So here, in the end, I must have two x values, one for point P, another one for point Q. I must also have two y values. All right, so when I write my coordinates for P, I must have an x value, y value. Coordinates for Q, x value, y value. Right? Now, since it's a point of intersection where two graphs intersect, their values of x and y are equal. Okay? Where two values of, so rather where two graphs intersect, their values of x and y are equal. Right, so first thing here, I'll write f of x is equal to g of x. Okay? f of x is equal to g of x. So f of x is equal to minus x plus 2, and g of x is equal to minus 3 over x. All right? Now, your knowledge of equations is required. Okay, your knowledge of equations. That's why I did equations term 1 to prepare you for now. Okay, so you need to solve this equation. Now be aware that we have 2 points. Therefore, when I simplify that equation, I must create a quadratic equation. Okay, because it's only a quadratic equation that I can solve and get 2 values of x. So to carry on here, there are many ways of doing it. But I'm not going to stress much. I'll multiply. Okay, be aware that the denominator there is 1. Denominator of that 2 is a 1. So the LCD is going to be x. Okay, the LCD is going to be x. What that means is I can multiply that minus x by x, the 2 by x. And I don't have to multiply the minus 3 by x because its denominator is already x. Okay? So if I do that, I'll get minus x squared plus 2x is equal to minus 3. Alright? Then from here, you get minus x squared plus 2x plus 3 equal to 0. Alright? Now, that becomes a quadratic equation. Now, for me to carry on here, it's better for me to make the coefficient of x squared positive. So I can divide each term by minus 1. You can show that if you want. So I'll divide each term by minus 1. And that will be equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3 equal to 0. Okay, then you factorize here. So you get x minus 3 times x plus 1 equal to 0. All right? So that will be x minus 3 equal to 0, or x plus 1 equal to 0. And this will give you x equal to 3 or x equal to negative 1. Right? So what that means is I've got those two x values. Then you must use common sense depending on the point in which quadrant it is. Point P is in the second quadrant. In the second quadrant, x is negative. Okay? Use common sense. So at P, x is negative. So which means at P, x is going to be equal to minus 1. At Q, x is, in fact, point Q is in the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, x is positive. Therefore, the value of x at Q is going to be 3. Okay? Now, you also need to determine the y value. Remember, I found the x values, I need to find the y value. Now, to find the y values, I prefer to substitute into the linear. Okay, but the linear is simplified. But you can also substitute into the hyperbolic equation. Okay, whichever you decide to get the same result. But I think for this case, just allow me to substitute into the hyperbolic equation. Right? So, the next thing now is to say g minus 1. G minus 1 means the value of y when x is negative 1. Okay? So I'll substitute that there. So you get minus 3 over minus 1. And that will give you a 3. Okay? Right? And then I also need to calculate g of 3, which means the value of y when x is 3. So that will be minus 3 over 3. And that will give me negative 1. Now, my final answer, it has to be in coordinate form. Then you say, therefore, the coordinates of P, please, you don't put an equal sign. You don't. The notation is extremely important. Okay? If you put an equal sign, you are saying P is now a variable. P is not a variable. P is a point. Okay? So the x value at P, as I said earlier, is -1. Okay? The y value, I've calculated it here, it's 3. Which makes sense. You must use common sense when you are doing it, because the value of y here is there. It's a positive value. Okay? And then the coordinates of Q, right? X is 3 there. And I've calculated the y. Okay? The y value is negative. Again, use common sense. Right? So this is how you do the question. Now, it's most likely that the final answer can be allocated a minimum 2 marks for a minimum here, 2 marks. Maximum could be 4, which means each coordinate will be given 1 mark. But this is how you answer the question. Okay? And I want you to learn to do it correctly this way from now on. Okay? Please be aware that in maths, if you say, if you are saying that, say, x is equal to -1, right? I'm correcting those who made mistakes recently, right? If you write p is equal to -1, that does not mean x is equal to -1. What you will be claiming is that p is now a variable, yet p is a point on the graph. It's not a variable, right? So be aware of that. Because I don't want you to get to matric without having the correct knowledge. So you need to have the right knowledge. All right. Any question there? So this whole question is just testing your knowledge of the fact that if two graphs intersect, it means that their x and y values are equal at that point. So you equate their equations, then you simplify and solve. And your knowledge of linear functions, so linear equations is required, quadratic equations is also required. All right? Sometimes also, I think, I'm not sure whether I've told you this, but as long as you're doing maths, okay, sometimes you may have to learn from your mistakes. And it's a good thing to learn from your mistakes. Okay? So that in the future, you'll be aware that, okay, I made a mistake here, so I'm going to correct it now. Okay, and it's a good thing to make mistakes. I make lots of mistakes, and I learn from them as well. All right. So let's carry on. So the next question is is 5.2.2. Now we need to determine the coordinates of R. Now the coordinates of R, sorry, B rather. Okay, sorry, I saw it as a R. Okay, the coordinates of B, this is the point there. Okay, now point B is along the linear function. Okay, and point B is also an x-intercept of the linear function. Like by now you should know that x is 0 along the x-axis. Sorry, y is 0 along the x-axis. Y is 0. So the value of y at B there is a 0. So we need to determine the value of x. So to do that, I'm going to do the solution here, 5.2.2. So we are going to use the linear, remember? So it will be f of x equal to minus x plus 2. Since y is 0, I need to substitute f of x by 0. And then you get x equal to 2. So what this means eventually is that the value of x at b is 2, and the value of y is 0. Right? Right. Okay. So it's very simple. You don't even just write the answer that it's 2 marks, so you could get 2 marks for just writing b x is 2y. So You must write your answer as ordered pairs. As ordered pairs. Alright, any question? Then 5.2.3, the length of GF. Now GF, this is the line. GF. Okay, I need you to be aware that GF, okay, the point is not really properly. So it's not. Right, I'm going to change that from GF because it won't make any sense, okay? You can't find the Y value at point F. Yeah, you can't find, okay, you see, if point F is here, okay, it's not along the hyperbola or the straight line, therefore, you cannot be able to find the Y value, right? You can't. Huh? You can't find the value of Y here. Okay, so I'm going to change that to GE. Okay, I'm going to change it to GE. So there was a mistake. Let's change that to GE. So that will be GE, not GF. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because remember, if you want to determine a vertical distance, you need two Y values. Am I right? The Y minimum and the what? And the Y maximum. So if point F is there, okay? If I were to ask you to tell me what is the value of Y at F, how would you calculate it? Because point F is not along the hyperbola or the straight line. So you can't determine the value of Y at F. Okay? You can't determine the value of Y at F. So I'm just changing for our purposes to GE. Okay? If I change it to GE, we are told that point E, okay, point E, X is minus 6 and Y is 0. So at E here, X is minus 6, Y is 0. It means at this point, X is going to be equal to minus 6. Okay, we can find the Y value. Also, at this point here, we can substitute X equal to minus 6 and determine the what? The Y value. Then after that, we can determine our distance. Okay, now I'm just going to show you something that I haven't done before. Okay, can you allow me? Can you allow me just to show you something very interesting here? Now, at this point here, we have got the hyperbolic function. At that point, we have got the linear function. So what you can do, you can find the length of GE, okay? Oh no, this point here is not the one that was one GE. So E is here. So means Y is 0 here. So we just have to find the value of Y at G. Right? So GE is going to be equal to Y max minus Y minimum. But our Y minimum is going to be 0. Our Y max, okay, that's the value of Y at G. So I'm going to calculate that. So I'll substitute into the linear the value of Y. So it will be F minus 6 is equal to minus 6 plus 2. Okay, so that will give me 6 plus 2, that will be equal to 8.
So what are you trying to find out?
I'm trying to calculate the distance for G.
So what are you finding out now?
The value of Y at G. The value of Y at E is 0. Point E is along the x-axis. Okay? Then, so I now have the Y value at G. Okay, is there anybody who has got any questions? Please, let's be honest. Okay, if you feel that maybe I need to clarify something. Right. So GE is going to be equal to 8 minus 0, which will give me 8 units. Okay. Right. I wish this point F was here. I wish this point here was point F. Then I'm going to show you another way of doing the question, but unfortunately our point F is not in the right place. You can't find the y value. Okay. Is there anybody else got any question? Like I did the sketching before you started the control test.